Hey, ChatGPT, can you repeat what you were saying, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I said the time we're living in feels like a spiritual wake-up call. The real battle's not just out in the world, it's inside us. It's about what we believe, how we think, and the choices we make every single day. This moment is revealing who we really are, and it's asking, will we choose truth even if it's uncomfortable? Or will we stay stuck in a system that wants us numb and divided? Because in the end, the winning side isn't the loudest. It's the one grounded in truth, love, and light.
So, how does one find the truth then? Do they pick up the Bible and try to find Jesus and God? Or how does one go about finding the truth?
That's the real question. And yeah, the journey starts with picking up the Bible and getting to know Jesus. Because in that story, truth isn't just a concept, it's a person. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That means truth isn't just something you figure out with your head. It's something you experience through relationship, but it's also about being honest with yourself, asking the hard questions, being willing to unlearn what the world taught you, and open your heart to something deeper. Truth shows up when you're seeking it with humility, not ego. So yeah, scripture, prayer, reflection, all of that helps. But it starts with a real hunger to know, not just to be right, but to be transformed.
So, you said Jesus was all about the truth. So, and you mentioned the ego. What do you mean exactly by the ego? And what do you mean exactly by Jesus was the truth? I don't follow. Can you elaborate on that in depth, please?
Yeah, let's go deep with that. So when I say Jesus is the truth, it's not just about religion or rules. It's about identity, purpose, and reality. Jesus didn't just teach truth. He embodied it. He spoke to people's hearts, broke through systems of control, and called out the lies people believed about themselves and the world. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Meaning if you want to know what's real, you look at him, his love, his sacrifice, his words. Now about the ego. Ego is like the false self. It's that part of us that wants control, power, recognition. It's pride, fear, and the need to be right. The ego resists truth because truth requires surrender. Jesus constantly challenged the ego in the religious leaders and the proud, even in his own disciples. He called people to die to themselves, not physically, but spiritually, to let go of the false identity and step into something real. So following Jesus isn't just believing in him. It's laying down ego, facing hard truths, and letting him reshape who you are from the inside out. That's why it's not just knowledge, it's transformation.
So who is Christ then? Because I thought Jesus Christ was a man who walked around. Is that something different? Is it? And then I don't know. Elaborate on that.
I feel you. That's a question people have been wrestling with for centuries. So here's how it breaks down. Jesus was a man, yes, a real person who walked the earth, taught, healed, and lived among people over 2,000 years ago. But Christ is more than just his last name. Christ is a title. It means the anointed one, the one chosen by God to bring salvation, truth, and healing to the world. So Jesus is the human form, and Christ is the divine identity. He's both fully man and fully God. That's what makes him different. He lived like us, felt pain like us, but also carried divine authority. That's why people say he's the bridge between humanity and God. Through him, truth isn't just something you learn, it's something you encounter. And when you get to know him, not just the history, but the heart, you start to understand that he's not just a man who walked the earth. He's still alive, still speaking, and still reaching for people who are searching for what's real.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what is Christ then? If it's just truth and it's more than just the man, can you elaborate farther on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're going deeper, Christ isn't just Jesus, the man who lived 2,000 years ago. Christ is the divine presence of God expressed through Jesus, the part that existed before time and continues beyond it. When Jesus said, "Before Abraham was, I am," he was saying the Christ identity wasn't born in Bethlehem. It always was. So Christ is the embodiment of truth, light, and love, the essence of God that enters into human experience to wake people up, to show them what's real, and to reconnect them to their Creator. Jesus carried that essence fully and showed us what it looks like in human form, how to live, how to love, how to surrender ego, and walk in purpose. So when people say Christ lives in you, they're not just being poetic. They mean the same spirit that raised Jesus, the same truth that he walked in, is available to us too, to guide, to transform, to break through the illusions of the world and reconnect us with the source of all life. So Christ is truth, yes, but also the light that exposes darkness, the love that heals brokenness, and the presence that never leaves. He's not just a man in history. He's the living reality of what it means to be fully aligned with God.
Interesting. Can you elaborate farther on that? Like, well, if Christ is all in us, then how can we capture Christ's, I guess, attitude? Is that the right word? Or how do we embody Christ in a way, like Jesus did? That's what I meant to ask.
That's a beautiful question. And honestly, that's the core of the whole journey. If Christ lives in us, then embodying Christ isn't about being perfect. It's about letting that presence shape everything we do. It starts with surrender, not trying to control everything, not being led by ego or fear, but being open, saying, God, shape me, teach me to love like you do. Christ's attitude was humility, compassion, truth, courage, and a deep connection to the Father. He didn't just preach it, he lived it. To embody Christ means slowing down, listening deeply, forgiving freely, and standing firm in truth, even when it costs something. It's showing mercy where the world shows judgment. It's loving the unlovable. It's speaking truth in love, not just to win arguments, but to set people free. And it's not about doing it alone. That's the whole point. Christ in you gives you the strength to walk it out. Through prayer, scripture, quiet reflection, and action, you begin to reflect him more and more. Not by force, but by transformation.
Interesting. Can you define what Christ's embodiment entails then? Like, you say it's inside of all of us, then how do we embody Christ? I know I've probably asked that, but I'm kind of asking in a different way. But how would one go about embodying it? Do they have to go to church? Do they have, and how do they let go, more or less, is what I'm asking. And
Yeah, I totally get what you're asking, and that's such a real, honest question. Embodying Christ isn't about following a checklist or just going to church, even though church can help. It's deeper than that. It's about letting go of who the world told you to be: ego, fear, pride, pain, and letting Christ live through you. Letting go means surrendering, not in a weak way, but in a freeing way, saying, I don't have to carry all this anymore. I don't need to have all the answers. I trust you. It's releasing the need to control, to be right, to perform, and instead leaning into love, grace, and truth. That doesn't happen all at once. It's a process. Sometimes it starts in quiet moments, just sitting still, being honest with God, reading scripture with an open heart, or praying like you're talking to someone real. Other times it's through experiences, pain, forgiveness, helping someone else when you don't have much to give. And yeah, community helps, whether it's a church, a group, or even a few people walking the same path. But the real transformation, that happens in your heart. Embodying Christ means letting him rewrite your story from the inside out.
When you say let go, what would one have to let go or sacrifice to be able to embody Christ?
That's a powerful question, because following Christ does involve sacrifice, but not in the way people always think. That it's not about losing your personality or giving up everything you love. It's about letting go of what's holding you back from truth. That could be pride, the need to always be right or in control. It could be fear of judgment, failure, or not being enough. It might be unforgiveness, bitterness, shame, guilt, or even the lies you've believed about yourself. Sometimes it's comfort, the habits or lifestyles that keep you numb or distracted. And yeah, it might even be certain relationships, mindsets, or addictions that don't line up with the life Christ is calling you into. The thing is, you're not just giving stuff up for the sake of it, you're trading it for something better. Peace, purpose, freedom, a new identity rooted in love instead of fear. So when Jesus said, "Take up your cross and follow me," he wasn't just talking about suffering. He was saying, lay down what's false so you can step into what's real. That's where the power is.
So it sounds like you have to be humble for you to accept Christ into your life. Is that about right?
Exactly. That's it right there. Humility is the doorway, not in a weak or defeated way, but in a real, honest, open kind of way. It's saying, I don't have it all figured out. I need help. I need something bigger than me. Pride closes the door to Christ because it says, I'm good on my own. But humility cracks your heart open and makes space for transformation. That's when Christ steps in, not to shame you, but to lift you, heal you, and walk with you through everything. So yeah, humility is where it starts.
So how do we embrace humility then? Like, I mean, I don't want to give that up, or is something other than myself saying that? Like, how come it's so hard to let go of everything and to let him in? Why is that so challenging for so many people?
Man, that's such a real question. Letting go is hard because it means losing control. And our ego hates that. The ego wants to protect itself, prove itself, be in charge. So when you feel resistance to letting go, it's usually not the real you. It's the false self, the part of you that's been shaped by fear, hurt, pride, or the world's expectations. Humility feels like a threat to the ego, but it's actually freedom to the soul. We're afraid of letting go because we think we'll lose something, power, status, safety. But what we really lose is the illusion. And once that's gone, we make space for peace, for Christ, for truth. So embracing humility isn't about beating yourself up. It's about getting honest, saying, I can't do this alone, and being okay with that. That's where real strength begins. That's when your spirit finally breathes.
So what you're saying is the book called, I can't remember the author, but the name of the book is called Ego is the Enemy. Was he right all along? I didn't read the book. I've heard of it. What's your take on that book? And how does it relate to the conversation of Christ right now we're having?
Yeah, that book, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. It hits on something really important. The whole idea is that ego, that false self we've been talking about, is what gets in the way of growth, purpose, and peace. It clouds your judgment, feeds your pride, and makes you think you're the center of everything. And that ties directly to the conversation about Christ. Because when you follow Jesus, one of the first things you're invited to do is let go of the ego, to die to self. That doesn't mean you stop being you. It means you let go of the version of you that's shaped by pride, fear, and control. So yeah, the book's message and Christ's message have something in common. To truly live, you have to let go of the part of you that's just trying to survive or impress and step into something deeper, something freer, something real.
Okay. So what you're saying is Christ isn't necessarily the man that walked, but yet a state of mind then. Is that what you're saying? And care to elaborate all the way with that? Go as far as you want.
Yo, that's a deep one. And yeah, let's unpack that fully. So Christ was the man who walked the earth, Jesus of Nazareth, real flesh and blood, historical and divine. But Christ is more than just a man. Christ is the eternal presence of God's truth, love, and light. What you could call a state of being or a divine consciousness. Jesus embodied Christ perfectly. He was the full expression of what it looks like when a human lives completely surrendered to God, without ego, full of love, full of purpose. So, when we talk about following Christ, we're not just following the teachings of a man. We're stepping into that same divine reality,